good evening. I don't have as much voice as usual, so I apologize if you can't hear me, just wave a hand. So the first order of business is approval of the meeting minutes from our November 13th meeting. Nobody had a chance to review them.
I'll make a motion that we approve the November minutes.
All in favor?
November 13th.
Should we hold up for a moment, please?
Yeah, can I actually pass around this so
Oh, yeah.
everyone sign it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak on something other than the items that are on the agenda, which are David Jagodinsky's application and the graphic impact science application?
Just like I did last time, you will let public other than the applicant speak at the public hearing.
Yes,
Thank you.
as long as there is something to be done by us, which
Well,
there is in this
again,
case.
I don't want a misunderstanding of last time I was told I could and then kind of said that everything had gone, I'm not trying to revisit it, that everything had been dropped, so you kind of didn't want me to speak for that long, I will say. Just want to make sure I will have ample opportunity to redress my government. Thank you.
Any questions?
Mm-hmm.
So the first matter for tonight is the application of David Jagodinsky for the property located at 2 Bryant Avenue. And we have new plans submitted to us. Yeah, the plans are pretty, yeah. We appreciate that you provided new plans. We, you know, when we're approving things, we approve the plans, like they're kind of, like when we have plans, they're part of our decision, so.
Absolutely.
But it looks, you know, you've removed the overhang. And, you know, is there anybody else here tonight that wants to speak in respect to this application? All right. I feel like we can almost like read from our minutes from the last meeting on this one. So.
It was a two foot.
Right, it was a 2-foot overhang.
Now
No,
it just
it's
requires a special permit.
because it's.
Do we need to go through all the special permit criteria?
Yes. You wanna take a stab at it?
Okay. According to Easthampton zoning regulations, the second floor does comply with all the laws. The board doesn't feel it will have any detrimental effect on the neighboring properties. There's no traffic impact, it's still a single-family house. It, I'm sure, has the same sewage and water issues that it had before. It doesn't trigger any wetlands, watersheds. It still has the garage that's not impacted. It'll still be a single-family house with the same landscaping, so there's no impact. The grass might be impacted during construction, but I'm sure they'll plant the grass back. It complies with the setbacks per our zoning requirements that allow second floors on non-conforming situations. So I think it complies with all the standards because it's staying a single-family house and it's going straight up.
So your motion is?
My motion would be to approve the application of David Jagodinsky for a special permit at 2 Bryan Avenue to allow a second floor addition to the house at 2 Bryan Avenue per the plans that were submitted for this meeting.
How did they get those plans?
I was trying, the plans were revised to 11/14/14.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we got it. Do you have that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's a 20-day appeals period after the decision is filed. So it doesn't start tonight, it starts after the decision is filed, which hopefully will be next week. Obviously it won't be tomorrow. And, yeah, so once it's filed, there's a 20-day appeal period. And you're all set.
All right. Can I ask one question about the meeting last month or not?
Sure.
Okay. How is the property with the 2-foot overhang, how is it deemed to be more detrimental to the city of Easthampton?
It isn't, but in order to do something, you have to comply with the rules in this book.
Right.
That second floor addition for the 2-foot overhang didn't, so you had to ask for a variance to vary the rules in this book. The standards for granting a variance are very, very strict, which means basically your property is different than everybody else's property. Because your property is different, you can't comply with the rules.
Okay.
And you could, so we couldn't grant you a variance because there was no hardship.
Okay.
That's all. It was just the rules.
Sounds good.
Thanks for coming back.
Not a problem at all, thank you very much.
All
So I
right.
hear from you then in writing,
The chair, Maggie, will write
Right.
the decision. Once she files it with the city clerk,
Yep.
I will get a copy of that and we'll send it out to you along with the notice of when the appeal period is actually ending.
or? Okay.
And once that time period elapses, you can get your building permit from the building inspector.
Okay.
You can try to pull a building permit before that time, but it would be at your own risk. And the
Right.
building inspector does not have to grant the building permit until the appeal period ends.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the graphic impact signs item, and we are now procedurally in a different place than the last time we were here. The application was made for the sign permit and it was denied by the building inspector. And so that's where we're at.
So can I ask for clarification? Is this application an appeal of the decision of the building official?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so the zoning board does not have like a set of procedures at this point yet, like for how these sorts of things would proceed. Like, we don't actually have technically procedures for how we hold any of our hearings. It's something that we have worked on in the past and are continuing to work on, and at some point, they will be adopted. But I just want to let everybody know at the outset, there is no in-place set of procedures for these kinds of proceedings here in Easthampton. So there are, within the statute, there are some deadlines about like when we have to have open the hearing and when we have to file a decision. Jamie is briefing on those. And basically we have to have opened the hearing within 65 days, and we have to have our decision, I believe it's within 100 days.
After the close of the hearing.
Within 100 days after the close of the hearing. We are in a somewhat unique situation in that two of the members of the current board that are here tonight, our appointments are ending. And so we can't really continue a hearing that is opened tonight because it will be like a different board that would take it up the next time. So our options basically are to make a decision tonight or to not really do anything on the hearing, continue it so that the new board can take it up on its own so that we don't run into a problem of having people vote who were not present for all of the deliberations of the board. So I just want to put that out there at the outset.
I have a question about that, because based on Jamie's comments, it appears that he's, I think, recommending that we not vote tonight because we don't have comments from the building official.
So we actually have two, the building.
We have the building inspector, right?
I think it's the Board of Health and the Planning Board, right?
The Planning Department and the Conservation Commission have each sent back that they have no comment?
Oh, they did, is your comment,
Well,
okay.
that was sent out a week ago.
All right,
So-
so we have
That is
all
not
the
it.
comments
No,
that
We
we're
don't
missing,
have one from the Board of Health.
from the Board of Health, which,
Would that be helpful?
I mean, arguably no. When we open for comments from the public, if anybody would like to offer their suggestions on that, we'll certainly consider it. But so my feeling is we should open and resolve tonight because we've already discussed this on numerous occasions as this board, and to pass it off to another board, I don't think is ideal.
Oh, I would agree, that's why I was
Right.
concerned about Jamie's comments.
Okay. So I guess what I then think we should do is we can open it. If there's anybody who wants to comment on the Board of Health issue, we'll do that first, and that way if there is something that we have not considered, we can consider that before we consider anything else. And then, once we've sort of resolved that issue to our satisfaction, we can move on to the substantive part of the hearing. So, is there anybody that would want to speak specifically on whether they think that the Board of Health comments would be relevant to our considering this on the substance tonight? All right.
Oh, excuse me. Is it mentioned in the ordinance that you have to get the Board of Health? I mean,
No,
again, I'm
it's
not-
actually not, and it's something, the statutory procedure for that we're following right now, is the same statutory procedure for any hearing like, on a special
48.
on a special permit.
48.
And as a matter of course, we don't wait for comments because it would delay, like the way that the special permit that we just granted, like the way that they basically had to come back, they would have had to, everybody would have to do that every time because the 35 days will never have elapsed when we're considered, because we get it and then we have to pass it off and then there's the 35 days. And that will never have happened by the first meeting. And so as a matter of course, we don't wait for comments.
And this particular item has been on our agenda for 2 months, and I would argue that if the Board of Health had concerns about this topic, they
Well-
would have commented by now, and
When it was before.
They did provide no comment on the previous
Right.
application, because a sign is very much outside of their
It's not a restaurant
sphere
or
of
anything, right.
influence, so they, as a matter of course, just say no comment.
Right.
And when they got the same, I'm assuming when they got a very similar application, they assumed that they already commented.
That's a good.
Right, so we did previously get a no comment on that, but to not wait for that would be actually consistent with our normal practice as opposed to an aberration from our normal practice. Because our normal practice doesn't really permit waiting the 35 days, because then we back everybody up even more. And most of the time when people come here, they don't like us anyway. All right, so, can we move on to the substance? So, who that is here would like to address us on the substance? Let me just, like, before we start calling on people, just get an idea of like, who, so there's Hagan. Is there anybody else here to speak? All right.
so,
In regards to the presentation itself?
yeah, see, I'd like to hear the applicant, 'cause this is
I
somewhat,
I think this
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah, John,
I think
John
it's
will-
Okay, so,
important.
all right. So, can you remind me of your name?
John Renzi,
John.
Graphic Impact Signs.
Okay, so.
I'm here with Frank Roberts, FL Roberts.
Before you get started, I just
Okay.
wanna, just at the outset, so we've got John to speak and we've got Counselor Hagan to speak. Is there anybody else who wants to speak?
If you have any questions, my name's Mike Schneider, I work for Doherty Wallace. If you have any questions about our application materials and our position, I'm here to help.
So you wanna reserve the right to do a rebuttal to anything that you hear tonight? All right, gotcha.
Thanks.
All right, so John.
John Renzi, Graphic Impact Signs, I have Frank Roberts, FL Roberts, Richard Smith, FL Roberts, and Michael Snyder, legal counsel. What we're applying for is, appealing the decision from the building inspector to deny the electronic message sign. And so therefore, we have based on previous presentations, the discussion of the definition of the changeable sign versus the electronic message sign. And when it came down to it, it was the question of a remote versus a computer. This is
The remote.
the remote.
It looks like the one from my ceiling fan.
Okay, it's very simple. It meets the definition of the changeable sign. I also brought the sign to show you that it only shows digits, decimals. It cannot say 3 gallon milk with every fill up. All right, and because based on one of the letters from the town's legal counsel concerning the fact that there is no changeable sign allowed according to the table, that would make the existing sign a pre-existing non-conforming sign. It was allowed under a previous bylaw. So there is an allowance for a continuance of an existing sign. So what we're looking to do here is replace the same size sign, same placement. So we're not creating a new non-conforming use. We're just asking for a continuance of the existing. So to keep it simple, that's where we're at for our application. It's actually less of an intrusion compared to the time and temperature unit at the supermarket that's got the time flashing, then the temp, and then the date. So this actually you might see change once a day. Okay, and it's really no different technology other than this has to be done by a remote. That's done by a computer.
Thanks.
No problem.
Councilor Hagan.
I just really have one, John. Sure. I just have one quick question. I read up a little on these
Can you
signs.
actually, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you could address us and then
Oh, sure.
we can address.
Oh, sure. I have no problem.
Yeah.
I just had one question on the changeable / electronic messaging signs. And since John
Renzi.
brought it in, I have done a little reading on them, and I take him at his word that this particular sign changes by remote. But there's also signs, I believe, and maybe you can ask Mr. Renzi if you don't want me to, is they also can be programmed, I'm not saying this one, but this type of changeable sign over a gas station sign can be changed from an office location if that particular option is put on a sign. I was just wondering if that is true, if I got my thing right off the computer, and if, you know, if...
Well, how would that change? I mean,
Doesn't matter.
like, if you, like, I guess.
Well, I mean,
because when we discussed this before, what we were talking about was the difference being computer programmable, but even if you're, like, changing it, that's not the same as programming it.
As you know, I differ on your opinion, which
Yeah,
is
no, I know.
just opinions that
We have
any
long established that,
right,
yes.
that any electronic sign is programmed electronically. I mean, that sign was programmed by somebody electronically by a computer. That's my take on the programmable sign. I know you take a different thing that you're saying in some message, and I understand. And I don't really want to debate that. I was just asking, can you change them from not necessarily a sign? Do you have other signs that can be changed from an office, say from a remote location as opposed to the gas station?
So I think the question is really like the mechanism that's in there that receives the transmission.
There's an antenna that screws in here that goes to the remote, and that's how it communicates.
And the question is it, for example, like
It cannot,
internet?
this cannot be done from corporate headquarters in Springfield to operate this and change this. It can only be done by the remote.
And it's like a radio transmitter kind of situation,
Yes.
like it's infrared or like,
This is RF micro,
okay.
so, but the,
So it's not like going up to like a satellite or onto
No.
somebody's wireless?
there are other signs that are message centers that can be designed to use as gas price signs. That's not what this is.
That's what my question was. You can have them that are programmed away from the site.
They're for higher end, high-rise signs where you're seeing them on the interstate, and they're mostly down south and out
That
west.
was my only.
You just don't see them here in the Northeast.
Probably, yeah, as if you like. All right, thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on this?
Just I'm not gonna reiterate everything, I just wanted 3 things on the official record, okay? And just, I would oppose the appeal of the building inspector, because I think he's a professional. He has deemed it, he is a professional building inspector, he goes to classes and stuff, I'm saying he has deemed it an electronic messaging center. I think we should support the building inspector in our town. I also think that more than ample evidence has been given to the board that the intent of the city council is not to have these signs in town. So again, that's going against what at least the intent of the city council, the desire of the city council is. And then the letter from the city solicitor, which you can take at your own word. Those are the only 3 things. I just want them on the official record. That's all I have to
I
say.
will make sure that we address them in our
Thank you.
deliberation. So if that's it, I move that we close the public hearing.
I just have one question. Is our memo and the application part of the record?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
No problem. All right,
I have a comment after the hearing is closed.
all right.
Is the hearing?
Well, I mean, that's a first.
Second.
All right. All in favor? All right,
A second, please.
no problem. I'm sorry, what?
You made the motion to close.
No, did we?
I seconded.
Oh, I thought you made the motion. I made, oh, Tony made the motion.
Somebody made a motion.
Somebody on this end of the table. We're fine.
I just want to say, now that I've seen the actual face, what that face reminds me of is the digital clocks that I have at home, like in my bedroom. The power goes out, and I have to correct the time, and I push the button with my finger to correct. Well, the difference is, instead of pushing with a finger, you're pushing with a remote, up and down. I mean, that's not an electronic message board. It's a,
When you leave the building to go out Wilson Avenue and take a right on Cottage Street, in between where you make the turn and where the brass cat is, I bet you there's no less than 8 electronic signs hanging in windows that say open, that have programmable displays
Right.
for circles that go around which way you want the letters to go. And if the building inspector doesn't have a problem with any of those, then I don't see why you should have a problem with this.
I mean, to me, this is not electronic message board.
Right. If he
And
wants to
clearly-
start going around town and telling people they gotta take down all these signs,
And
well,
clearly,
he's doing it to these people, he has to do it to everybody, that's why.
our regulations clearly say the sign face may change of non-conforming signs.
Right.
And they're just changing the sign face.
Right. So let me just very quickly revisit tonight, for our record here, just a couple of the things that we've discussed previously on this, specifically with respect to our understanding of the ordinance. The first thing is that we have previously agreed that the language of the ordinance is clear with respect to, that there are electric message centers, and then there's also something called a changeable sign, and that the changeable sign is basically a face of a sign. It's a way of displaying content on a sign. It is not a type of sign the way that an electronic message center is a type of sign. And that because the zoning ordinance is not ambiguous, the intent of the city councilors in drafting the zoning ordinance is not something that we should be considering, because we should be considering the language of the zoning ordinance and only looking to intent if there's an ambiguity that we need to resolve. I'm forgetting the next thing that I wanted to say. That covers. What, am I forgetting anything that I was supposed to?
Any comment on the message center?
Yeah, thank you, that how we're distinguishing it, that to us, the big difference with the electronic message center versus something that is not an electronic message center is this language of computer programmable sign. And that as presented to us consistently throughout this process, there's nothing about this sign that is computer programmable. And that they're not like changing the sign, and so it's just changing of the content or like a refacing of an existing non-conforming sign, and that is permitted.
One other comment, when I read their attorney's opinion, he considers a non-conforming sign, which is something I don't think we had discussed the last 2 meetings.
I think we had, because it's like too, I'm trying to remember exactly, it's too tall or too close or too something.
There were a number of.
Yeah,
So
we can talk about that.
we're acknowledging it's a non-conforming
Yes.
sign, and our regulations specifically permit you to change the face of a non-conforming sign.
And I'm pretty sure that that's something that we.
I just did not
previously.
remember it,
It's
and
in
then
the
I.
previous minutes.
Yeah,
this
not the
one.
last one,
Okay,
the one before that.
Okay, I have short memory.
But that did remind me of something else that I did want to just put on the record, which is that when we reviewed the opinion in the letter that was previously submitted to us from the city solicitor, in which the city solicitor basically says, well, there's no provision for changeable signs, so therefore they're not permitted anywhere. And that we felt like that argument just proved too much because there are changeable signs, you know, outside of Florence Savings Bank, outside of all sorts of other things where it's like the little letters that you slide on the thing. And so changeable signs, like that just didn't strike us as a reasonable reading of the zoning ordinance. Because the definition that's given here for a changeable sign really relates only to content, whereas the types of signs that are regulated are like like height and bulk and size and those sorts of like distinguishing characteristics, and electronic message senders, which are specifically referenced. And so, just for all these reasons, I trying to remember how. The last time we did this, we had a building inspector decision to do was the small engine repair guy, and I'm trying to remember whether I needed to do something special in the.
You have to,
opinion.
there's ideally, the motion should be made in the affirmative.
Right, that's what it was.
So the motion would be to,
How did we, because we went back and forth on this on the engine one.
To overturn the,
If I may grant the appeal?
Grant the appeal, yeah.
to grant the appeal of overturning the decision.
Yeah. I guess the small engine repair was a slightly different before us procedure.
Because
They
they
were
were
an
applying
appeal,
for
that's why it
variance.
was. No, they weren't, well, no, it was because there was the building inspector had like issued them a citation.
Right.
That's why, it was a
Also,
citation.
also says the board denied it.
Right, well, and we denied it, but
So
that was
it's a
why it was
question
weird,
of
because we
whether
were
or not
having to,
to-
yeah. So, I move that we grant the appeal of the building inspector's decision with respect to the sign located at one.
Grant the appeal? Is that the?
Grant,
Grant the appeal to overturn.
To overturn?
Yes.
The building officials?
yes. Yes, we're granting the appeal, and the appeal is seeking to overturn.
Okay, all right.
Yes. So we're granting the appeal, seeking to overturn the decision of the building inspector denying the sign permit under section 1004 of L of the Easthampton zoning ordinance as to the property located at 124 Northampton Street, the application filed by Graphic Impact Signs. Second. All in favor? All right. So, thanks everyone. Oh, right, so, it's not the same.
So, I mean, as you stated at the beginning, the decision has to be filed with the city clerk within 100 days. There is an appeal period. We usually file the decision usually gets written in the next week.
Yeah.
It'll be filed, there'll be a 20-day appeal period, which would then, at the end of that appeal period, you'll receive a notice that there have or have not been appeals, and any appeals at that point would go to Hampshire County Court or Land Court, or will go to Housing Court.
If you could just kindly give me a copy of the letter once it's.
Yep, as soon as the decision is drafted,
I appreciate
and it's, the city clerk timestamps it in, it will
Okay.
be distributed to parties of interest.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
All right, we've got administrative items. I think the biggest administrative item is that this is going to be the last ZBA meeting. And possibly yours, or that maybe you're going to be on
I'm willing to stay on board.
So, the connoisseur in the striped sweater is my coworker Jared, who I've
And you have
gone
conned
into
him?
joining our
Oh,
zoning board of appeals.
it's wonderful. Yeah.
So, so thanks again, Jared, for coming tonight and for letting me twist your arm into this. So, what's your last name?
Olinsky,
Um,
Olinski.
So normally, appointments get confirmed by like the whole city council, but the mayor is able to do like a 30-day appointment, like emergency temporary appointment. So, maybe Jamie, you and Jared can communicate about like what paperwork has happened in 3 years, I don't remember. And then the other question is, are you willing to continue for a little bit longer, in which case Jamie can also talk to you about, you already talked about that.
If we have 4 board members, that's the minimum that
Right.
we need. It just means that everyone would have to be
Right.
at every meeting. If you're willing to stay, it'll
I'm willing
make
to stay.
things easier, but I don't know how that would work with the, you know, if we have 5 board members, even if you're a temporary appointment, I don't know what the process, and I don't know if anyone's in queue already for this.
Do you want another 3-year appointment?
No,
Oh,
no, I mean, I've enjoyed it tremendously. I've learned a lot, and I've enjoyed working with everybody on the board, and you'll find it very interesting. It's great. I just would like to see somebody else in the community come in and do it. Because I was on a personnel board 20 years ago for a couple of years, and I've done this, and I'm on Board of Trustees at Loyal Catholic, and
So you have another- you have
I've got 2 or
another-
3 other commitments, so
Yeah.
I'd like to just come down. But if you want me to stay on, I'm willing to. I'm sure you probably want to advertise for a volunteer
Well, so I mean, this isn't.
and have
Yeah.
5.
The mayor, yeah, it's the mayor.
It's really the mayor's responsibility to
Keep the board running. and-
Yeah,
Right.
and because this is a permitting board, it would be nice to be able to continue to do permitting. Fortunately, the winter is usually pretty slow.
Yeah.
So
I don't think the board would run as well with just 4 members,
it hasn't in the past.
because
We have
somebody's
a lot
on
of-
vacation, somebody's sick.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, right now, we were lucky that only John wasn't able to be here tonight. So we still had 4 to vote, and that's what it counts. That's what you need. So if you want to talk to the mayor and let me know, like I said, if it takes 3 or 4 months to get some volunteer in, I'm willing to do the 3 or 4
Oh,
months.
you would have to get the special emergency appointment.
Yeah,
And I don't know what the process is for that.
yeah.
Because technically, when the January 1st rolls around, your appointments are over,
Right.
and you're no longer on the board and officially able to vote or
Right.
take part in the meetings.
Okay.
So not that I was planning to sit on these decisions, but I really need to not sit on these decisions.
So you just check her, do you want me to just call and make an appointment with the mayor itself?
I will
With
send
her?
an email to you and the mayor.
Okay.
I mean, could he be an alternate, so if we knew we weren't gonna have,
All of these appointments are for 3 years. So the point of the emergency appointment is to, in this situation where we don't have enough people to serve on the
Full
board,
vacancy.
we can still do permitting, that the city doesn't have to shut down because we don't have a zoning board of appeals.
But, I'd be willing to maybe apply for an appointment as an alternate, that if you know ahead of time that people can't come, and if I'm available, I would come.
I mean, at one time,
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
we had 2 alternates.
I
For a
did
short
well-
time.
I did well to do that, too,
Yeah.
so-
If
The board
somebody
is-
wasn't coming, you could
Right.
call and say, are you available,
Right.
or are you?
I know when
Yeah.
we recently had an alternate, it didn't work out so well, I think in part because she
Was coming
was
to all-
new
all
and like
meetings.
wanted to know what was going on,
Yeah.
but maybe it's a good way to like, as a transitioning off,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a sort of stop.
I have no
Well, I mean, so
problem
that-
being,
I
I
guess
Some
that's a great idea.
there Yeah, I have to look into it, because the board's by statute, it's 5 members, and it can be 2 associate members. But my understanding is that associate members are not technically
Voting?
voting members of the board.
Oh, really?
But they would have, there's no
Even if
purpose
there's
of them,
nobody-
if they're sitting and on an
Yeah, that's
application,
the
they have to
vote.
vote. That's why you have alternates.
That's why I said I have to look into it. But I'm pretty sure that when the last time I looked into it, the associate members are, they're not full members of the committee or the board, and that they don't have all the rights and responsibilities.
Well, check it out and let
Yeah.
me know, just copy
Yeah,
me.
me too.
I'd be willing to be an alternate to, whatever works best to keep everything running.
Yeah. And then you wouldn't have to come to all of the meetings.
Yeah.
Okay. Other administrative stuff. We have a new zoning ordinance amendment. Obviously, if you don't.
No, give it to me because I'm giving my binder to Jared.
Oh, great.
So
I'm actually trying, if you want to add that to, there's an extra line there for John, actually. Yeah. It's for the,
Can I take one, give it back to Jamie for John?
so this is the accessory apartment ordinance that was recently amended,
Okay.
which allows for accessory apartments that are not attached to the single-family house. Accessory apartments are only allowed in single-family houses. This allows a single-family house to have like a barn that could be converted to an accessory apartment theoretically, or as long as the structure remains subordinate to the
Is there no
existing
info
structure.
for it? Oh, no, there's the.
There's also some other minor changes, but in general, it's substantively the same as the previous ordinance. Only, I have an appointment certificate. And the zoning board is being requested to provide comment on a project coming up for the planning board. It's the special permit for a new industrial building on O'Neill Street, Chem-Metal plant. You want to look at the application and, or not, and provide comment or not. That would be great.
Pass this on.
All right. Yeah,
What's his name, Jared?
Jared Lewinsky. All right. And then we'll look at the plans. All right. Let's see what we have here.
It's in addition to an existing industrial building.
Yeah, looks like.
And I think we'd only have concerns if they needed a variance or a special permit. So it looks fine.
They've got their stormwater. It seems like, yeah, their site plans. So in granting the special, so wait, so this was, had they previously?
Yeah, but they had a special permit.
And it expired?
No, it's being amended, they want to build a new building. Basically,
Oh, I
the
see.
original special permit was for the first building, they want to expand
Okay.
their production capabilities and
Okay.
they need to build a new building.
So when they first got their special permit, the planning board found that the project was not detrimental to the neighborhood and area. And
2008.
that was in 2008, and that was for a 20,000 square foot addition, and this one now is for an additional, let's say on the plan, how many square feet it is? So this is for an additional 35,000 square foot building addition. So this is gonna be significantly more than double size. But yeah, I don't see anything worth commenting about. Anybody else want to look more in detail? Alright. Go back over to Jamie.
Thank you.
And then the only other thing is the review of the home occupation ordinance. I was bad, and I have not looked at it in the last month. I don't know what anybody else has and wants to share their thoughts. I apologize.
Well, maybe, seeing as I started this, maybe, and this is your last meeting, maybe I'll go back and rewrite the whole regulation. Did you come up with a new name other than home occupation and home business?
I think I was pretty much convinced last time that like there's not, well, actually, we had talked about doing the like home occupation or home business like minor and major, and I think I liked that idea, using one phrase and having like a description on it of like intensity, like maybe low intensity and high intensity or something like that, or because yeah, like my issue with the home occupation home business was like there is nothing there that signals like which one
Is which?
is which, and it would be nice if we're gonna have a different provision for like have two different provisions, if there's something in the name that indicates to people which one is probably going to be more relevant to them. And so maybe like home occupation minimal impact and home occupation, I don't know, maybe not major.
Home occupation accessory use and home occupation permit required.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Should I write that down for you?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Hopefully I have a short-term memory.
Yeah, that's where I like that distinguishes
Yeah.
between two major avenues to go on.
Maybe it was on minimal impact, being no impact and minimal impact. Or
Yeah, I mean, the problem with impact is that like everybody's gonna think that theirs is minimal impact. You know what I mean?
Or be no impact and minimal impact.
But I think,
Or whatever, I mean, there's
Yeah.
many ways
Yeah.
to.
but I think, to me, that's why you distinguish them. One is a customer accessory use and you can just do it.
Right.
And the other you need permission for,
Which is the permit.
which is the permit.
Right.
Well, so that is if it's an accessory use that's permitted by right, should there be any oversight at all, even just a
No.
cursory compliance check?
Well, but there's not like any, I mean, how would that even work? Like, because there's no mechanism for them to come here for like a cursory compliance check.
Well, so what I had sort of proposed was that the minor
Yeah.
would be the building inspector. And the building inspector determines that it complies with the zoning ordinance or complies with the
Mhm.
home occupation ordinance.
I
And
would-
then if he doesn't, then it becomes, in his determination, it's a major impact, and that would then be triggered
But
to the
I-
zoning board. And that there's no special.
I don't know if one person, I don't know if
He
I
already
like
does
that.
He already does that. I mean, that's the process now.
It's just that everything ends up coming to us because
Right.
they can't approve any of it.
Right.
So it would be delegating him. It would actually be similar to what we did with the like pre-existing non-conforming, like, does it increase the non-conformity or does it not increase the non-conformity, and ceding to the building inspector the ability to approve applications where it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure, but the change doesn't increase the non-conformity, versus the ones where it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure, but the change would increase the non-conformity. So that's okay. Yeah.
I have a prejudice because that landscaping business on Duty Avenue, there's another building on the property. It is a commercial property.
Right, but I guess the question though is like, if everybody goes to the building inspector, and then the building inspector is able to say, because we have not had issues with the non-conforming structure doesn't increase, the non-conformity does not increase the non-conformity, like that. We have found that the building inspector is doing a great job of keeping our caseload low, which was the hope with that change. And if they're having to go to the building inspector anyway, although I don't know, do people just like skip that step because they realize they're not going to be able to get a permit from the building inspector? But if they can, you know, like when they come to get their like, their, what is it, business certificate?
License.
Yeah, so basically the process is if you want to run a home business, you come to either the planning department or the building department, or you go to the state clerk's office. You go to the state clerk's office to get your business certificate, because you think, I'm just running a home office, I need a business certificate. And then she says, okay, well, you need to get zoning approval, you need to signature from the building inspector, or if the building inspector's not there, you need a signature from the planning director. At which point, they come downstairs, and then they're advised that they have to comply with the home occupation ordinance, which they didn't even know about, and no one's told them about it. And there's a whole back and forth, and then 3/4 of the people, we never see them again. They're operating their businesses illegally.
Right.
Because
it was too burdensome.
Because they
And they probably didn't.
They didn't need the business certificate. They can do things under the table. They're not filing taxes properly. They're not getting.
Or if there are people like the lady baking sourdough bread in her kitchen, and like she was told she needed a permit from us, and I just thought that was ludicrous. Someone baking sourdough bread in their own kitchen.
I think that was like a really good opportunity. Like I think that was like she should have come to get us.
See, I disagree.
No, I think she should have came down.
Because she was doing like things like, because it was good that there was a review process to make sure that like her kitchen, for example, wasn't underneath like bedrooms, or because she was going to be baking at like 3 in the morning.
Deliveries are not made on a constant basis
Right.
to the houses.
Like the
I
reason
just
that
know people that have made bread to sell at farmers markets,
right.
you know, and it's not,
Somebody's got to oversee it though. You've got to, you got deliveries,
You don't-
questions.
you don't oversee the farmer who brings his produce to the farmers market.
I don't know. I mean,
But they're operating under the state statutes that allow farmers a wide.
Okay, we'll take
although
the
that's actually,
photographer.
yeah. Well, I agree about the photographer.
And the lady who's gonna run the cleaning business out of her
Yeah,
house.
no, I agree better. And the guy who's going to be running rides for Mass Health. Like all of those people should have been able to get a stamp from the building inspector. I agree with that. So as an alternative to how it could work, they could go upstairs. They could come downstairs, and maybe it would be like,
I think they should go to the planning department, have the planning department sign off.
We
But
don't
they can't
dictate
sign off
where
unless
people
we have-
go first. If people come to the planning department first, we tell them what the process is. If they go to the city clerk first, she gives them a business certificate and says, you need to get the signature. If we go to the building inspector, he may grant it, he may not.
What if-
Sometimes he comes to the planning department and says, I don't know, should we
okay,
grant it?
what if we did language that like started with like a definition, define home occupation in a broad way that's going to apply to like all home occupations, and then as the next section it said home occupation, no permit required, and then had a listing like if all of these criteria are met, no permit is required. And then it's basically a matter of somebody going down the list with the applicant, like, is this true, is this not true, is this true, is this not true, is this true, is this not true? You're skeptical?
No, I mean, that's basically what I had thought I
Or like a
proposed.
medical exam where you're asking questions, you know, you're answering a question, so
Well, you've got the list for prohibited. Oh, okay, so this would be non-resident, no residents, employees shall be employed, hours of operation limited. Yeah, I guess I would, yeah, I guess I would, like, this language would be good, just like move it up to here. But doing it in like that list form. I mean, I think if you combine the two, which is what I meant to do in the last part, I just didn't do it. 'Cause- But it seems like we're pretty much there.
Well, so, the only objection I had to yours was it was complicated.
Right.
And I wanted something so that Joe homeowner could look at the first page or the first paragraph and have an idea of what the rules were, because
Yeah.
rather than having to read 4 pages, which we don't think they're gonna do,
So for
that's
my
all.
parting promise to you all is before my term expires on the 31st, I will email to everybody what I was gonna do this last month, which is my shot of taking the substance abuse orders and putting it into a format that is more consistent with the rest of the zoning ordinance, which is clearly what Jamie was trying to do, was just have it be a consistent format.
I mean, a bunch of that, at the start of that, is going through the definitions, which, you know, we should look at the definitions. The entire first page of what I propose is, you know, the first half of it is definitions that are at the front of the ordinance and the table of uses, which is at the front of your ordinance. Really, the home occupation ordinance would start,
Right, it
below,
doesn't start,
it
so
really starts with
applicability, right?
right,
Yeah.
and that would be the first thing that someone flipping over into the home occupation ordinance would see.
But probably though, if we're not gonna have it there, like, yeah. I'll take us down, you guys can consider it in January, in my absence. And I think that's it for tonight.
Well, I'd just like to say publicly, Maggie, thank you, and Fran, thank you. You guys have served very
We made it
admirably. You made it through a lot of difficult hearings, and thank you for your service to the city.
Our pleasure. Well, hopefully you'll discover when you revisit that there's some purpose in having alternates, and we'll be able to
yeah.
help out in a June, because it is hard with like a 5% board when you need 4 people to vote.
Yeah, it's,
I think that's a great idea.
yeah.
An alternate.
So, but thank you guys. It's been a lovely 3-year
It's been working
term,
with you too.
and yeah, have fun. Hopefully it'll continue to be like less stuff as like we like make these suggestions to change the ordinance. I think the ordinance is like several of the things that were consistently a problem 3 years ago have been fixed, and hopefully we can continue with that, and that's great. And with that, I move that we end our meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.